Hey everyone! Today we're diving into the news about Kirk Cousins staying on the Falcons roster, which has triggered a $10 million roster bonus. I know this might spark some strong opinions, so feel free to share your thoughts. Just maybe hold off on the tomatoes. Welcome to this special edition of Falcons Today, brought to you by Chat Sports. I'm Matthew Peterson, and let's get into it. I have to admit, I was a bit surprised by the news yesterday. The $10 million bonus kicks in on the 5th day of the new league year, which starts on March 12th, making March 17th the key date. But I'm not quite sure why it was triggered on the 15th. Regardless, it's done, and Cousins is staying put, so let's move on. First off, I'll own up to my mistake. I didn't think the Falcons would keep Kirk Cousins after his comments in New Orleans. His remarks didn't exactly paint the coaching staff in a good light. Here's your starting quarterback saying he played through shoulder and elbow injuries, yet there was no sign of that. One day, he showed up on the injury report with an elbow issue, but Cousins claimed it was just a clerical error, and then it disappeared the next day. That just doesn't add up. So either Cousins was playing hurt and the coaching staff didn't know, or they did know and chose to keep it quiet. Either way, it doesn't reflect well on them. I thought this might lead to Cousins trying to find a way out of Atlanta, but credit where it's due, Terry Fontenot and the team stuck to their guns. They said they weren't going to release him, and they wanted him as a backup. I didn't believe it, but they proved me wrong. That said, I still don't think Cousins will be on the roster come week 1. You might be thinking I'm in denial, but hear me out. I believe it's crucial to support Michael Penix in his development. Having a backup who doesn't want to be there, especially since Cousins has expressed a desire to play elsewhere, could be a recipe for disaster. We need a backup who's committed to helping our young quarterback grow, someone who understands their role and is ready to support Penix every step of the way. I get what my role is here. Think of it like a safety net, similar to what we saw with Drake May last year. When May took over, his backup was incredibly supportive, and that's the kind of backup I believe is better than Cousins. I figured Terry Fontenot and Raheem Morris would come to the same conclusion and decide to move on from Cousins to avoid that hefty $10 million roster bonus. But here we are. They're sticking to their guns and seem committed to a trade. Now, let's talk about that $10 million roster bonus. I thought it would be paid out right away, but I've learned a lot in the last day or so. If a team trades for Kirk, they actually take on that $10 million bonus. So, what does that mean financially if the Falcons decide to trade Cousins? When a team acquires a player, they take on their base salary and any unpaid bonuses. For example, if a team like the Browns trades for Kirk Cousins, they wouldn't be absorbing the entire $30 million cap hit. Instead, they'd be responsible for his base salary, which is $27.5 million, plus any unpaid bonuses. Now, here's how that works. The base salary is divided over the 18 weeks of the season, meaning the player gets one paycheck each week, which is 1/18 of their base salary. So if a team trades for Kirk before the season starts, they'd be looking at taking on that $27.5 million base salary along with any unpaid bonuses. I'm not claiming to be a salary cap expert. I spend a lot of time trying to understand it, but I'm not a lawyer, and I won't pretend to be one. That $10 million bonus would likely fall under the category of unpaid roster bonuses. So, if a team trades for Kirk Cousins, the Falcons might never have to pay that amount. However, this is where things get tricky. I find it hard to believe that any team would trade for Kirk and take on $37.5 million in total cash owed to him, especially considering how he performed last season. That just doesn't seem realistic to me. So, we're left with two possibilities. First, let's say a team like the Browns decides to trade for Kirk. In that case, Cleveland and Atlanta could split the $37.5 million. The Falcons might say, if you take on all of this money, we'll only ask for a 6th-round draft pick in return. But if we split the bill, we'll want a 4th-rounder. It's not uncommon for teams to negotiate salary contributions in exchange for different draft picks. The second option is a bit more complicated. The Falcons could approach Kirk and say, the Browns are interested in trading for you, but we're serious about keeping you here. So we recommend you waive that no-trade clause and agree to a new contract with Cleveland. The Browns would then reach out to Kirk's agent, Mike McCartney, and say they want him, but not at the $37.5 million price tag. Kirk might consider a new one-year deal worth $15 million. He could say yes, or he could say no. After all, Kirk has made more money than Tom Brady, so he might think, if I stay here, I'm guaranteed $37.5 million, whether I'm on the roster or not. But there's a risk. If he's released in August because no one trades for him and he doesn't agree to a new contract, he could find himself without a job. By that point, most teams have filled their rosters, and he might miss out on playing altogether. So, it comes down to what Kirk values more, the money or the chance to play. After earning nearly $250 million, he might decide that losing out on an opportunity to play for a $15 million difference isn't worth it. Lastly, let's talk about what the Falcons could potentially get in a trade. To me, the only real option for the Falcons to move on from Kirk Cousins is through a trade. They could release him, but that would look a bit foolish, especially if they do it in August. If they release him then, they'd still owe him that $10 million. Now maybe Arthur Blank thinks, I don't care about $10 million. That's pocket change for me. If the Falcons are willing to pay that amount in hopes of securing a trade that doesn't pan out, that's a risk they might take. In the long run, it could be a smart move to spend $10 million for a chance at a draft pick. Worst case scenario, it's not just $10 million in cap space, it's Arthur Blank writing a check. Honestly, as long as that doesn't lead to higher concession prices at the Benz, who cares? When it comes to a potential trade, I think the Falcons could look for something similar to what the Bears got when they traded Justin Fields to the Steelers last year. In that deal, the Bears received a sixth-round draft pick, which could have turned into a fourth-round pick if Fields played 50% of the snaps. Ultimately, it stayed as a sixth-rounder. I can see the Falcons pursuing a similar arrangement, where they get a sixth-round pick that could elevate to something higher based on Kirk's performance. I don't think any team is going to offer a third-round pick. So don't hold your breath for that. A sixth or fifth round pick that could move up to a fourth if Cousins plays 50% of the snaps, or if the team makes the playoffs seems more realistic. So, that's the latest on the Kirk Cousins situation and where the Falcons might go from here. And yes, feel free to poke fun at me in the comments. I deserve it. But I still stand by my belief that Kirk Cousins will not be on the Falcons roster come week 1.